All right, so on this Sportcross, one of the things I've noticed is these wheels, as faded and tired as they look and as curved up as they look, have never actually been refinished in their entire 20-year life. The easy way to tell is the JWL, the Japanese wheel licensing group that determines if a wheel is safe. Their little logo that is stuck in there is nice and raised, nice and solid. Now if we take a look at this rear, also nice and raised, nice and solid. I have here one of the stock wheels off my manual sedan, and it is all full of paint and nasty. I've probably had this wheel refinished 2 or 3 times throughout the life of the car. So that's an easy way to tell if these wheels have been messed with and refinished. But I'll have to refinish these at some point because they look pretty terrible and burnt. One other thing to note with first gen ISs is they use these stupid Toyota mag seat lug nuts that are flat with a washer, not the standard 60-degree taper seat we see on most cars. So if you ever buy aftermarket lugs for your IS, you better get mag seats or you better buy different wheels. Another thing to watch out for on these cars, especially when they get older, is the control arms will smack into the upper strut tower if one of the springs and shocks get blown out and they get tired, or if you are a hot boy and have it slammed to the ground and don't have stiff enough springs, the ball joint end will smack into that strut tower and make a little divot in it. It's pretty standard for these. These look pretty old, but if you ever bottom it out real hard and hear something smack, that's probably what you're hearing. This one's done that a few times, so somebody was obviously driving the hell out of it before they put stiffer shocks in it. All right, lower suspension on the front. These ball joints look excellent. They're a common source of problems, especially if you get really creaky noises. Those are usually dry or loose. And changing them requires not a whole lot. 2 bolts and 1 tie rod and 1 lower control arm. Now the big one that's always a problem on these cars, and I've had tons of issues with on the manual sedan, are these caster rods. These caster rods run from the bottom of the body and keep the lower control arm in line. Now this one has factory style rubber bushings that don't look that old. This one's not too bad, but this one over here is already torn out. That bushing should be in one piece, so I've got new ones on the way, and hopefully I'll get more than 20,000 miles out of a set. Somebody's already gone to great lengths to replace most of the suspension on this car. It's got these really nice Coney shocks, Ibach springs, nice fresh control arms, bushings. And great thing is this car is super clean underneath. No rust anywhere, very little corrosion. And somebody put a fresh set of California cats in it too. As far as the rear is concerned, the most annoying arm on here is this lower control arm. Where this camber adjuster bolt is, the bushing behind that loves to fail. Now thankfully that one's already been done in the last couple of years by the previous owner. I've gone through 2 or 3 on my manual sedan, and they are awful to change. They are terrible. So if I don't have to do those for a while, I'm going to be happy. But this car is super solid, super clean, in really nice shape. On these IS300s, the most common problem you run into is going to be suspension stuff, mainly ball joints. Now this car has been serviced really well. I've taken really good care of it throughout its life, but it still has some issues. I've been hearing a little clunk up front, and it's hard to hear, but this upper ball joint is no longer really doing its job. So that's a real common problem area. I actually happen to have a set of these lying around, so it's probably time to change those. The lower ball joints are super easy. Those are much more important. I've been doing those on a biannual basis on the sedan because I don't want to risk a failure. Since I don't care about this control arm or this ball joint, I'm going to do this the way you're not supposed to do it. But I want to get it out. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. I forgot the most important thing. Don't let the spindle hang by the brake hose and the ABS line. Big zip ties are your friend. All right, so that's up. Oh yeah, that bad boy's toast. Wasn't asking. These have to be tight. They don't have to be that tight. Golly. Yeah. All right, now that we got this thing out, you can see this ball joint's pretty floppy. Also, you can see these upper bushings are pretty toast. They're all fairly tired. They're kind of punched out, and those will give you a pretty nasty handling feel. So I'm going to replace them with some good used ones that I happen to have lying around from my manual sedan before I put the figs, offset bushing arms in it to get extra camber. But this one's nice and toit still. It's probably only got 10-15,000 miles on it. So it is ready to go in. Also, because I want to make sure these bolts go back in properly, I'm going to be using a little bit of blue Loctite. Don't worry, it is blue, it's just in a red bottle. Why they do that, I don't know. One thing you always want to try to do is tighten these down in a position that roughly replicates where it's going to be at regular ride height. Otherwise, you're going to put strain on the bushings and they won't last very long. Come on. And sometimes you have to push down to get the taper seat to set because it just wants to spin. This doesn't have to be stupidly tight, but you also need to make sure that you're lined up with one of the windows or the little cotter pin. Actually a hairpin, but click. Excellent. Now, no more clunky clunky. The passenger side did not have any audible clunk, but now that I've got this apart, So this one's ready to go too. So I'll be doing both of them. Always good with suspension parts to do both sides and not just the one that's bad, because usually the other one's not far behind, as this case in point shows.